You know that feeling when you walk into a room and everyone goes quiet. Not because they're surprised to see you, but because they were just talking about you. That's how it started. Not with screaming, not with broken dishes or slammed doors. Just silence. The kind that sits in your chest and makes it hard to breathe. I was 31 years old when I learned that the woman I thought I'd spend my life with had been sleeping with someone else for 7 months. 7 months. Not a drunken mistake, not a moment of weakness. A choice made over and over again. Her name was Claire. We'd been together for 5 years, lived together for 3. We had routines, inside jokes, a dog named Murphy who slept between us every night. I thought we were building something. Turns out I was building it alone. The day I found out, it was raining. I remember that because I kept thinking how cliché it was, like the universe was trying too hard to set the mood. I wasn't supposed to be home. I had a work trip to Denver, 3 days, client meetings, presentations, the usual. But the client canceled last minute, and I caught an earlier flight back. I didn't tell Claire. I wanted to surprise her. A surprise. Funny word for what happened next. I got home around 2 in the afternoon. The apartment was quiet. Her car was in the driveway. I figured she was working from home, probably on a call in the bedroom with her headphones on like she always did. I put my keys on the counter, kicked off my shoes, walked toward the bedroom to say hello. The door was cracked open, and I heard her laugh. Not the polite laugh she used with coworkers. The real one, the one I thought was just for me. I pushed the door open. She was in bed. Not alone. There was a man next to her, shirtless, comfortable. Like he'd been there before. They didn't even notice me at first. I just stood there. I don't know for how long. Maybe 5 seconds, maybe 20. Time does weird things in moments like that. Claire saw me first. Her face went white. She said my name. Once. Soft. Like she was trying to make sure I was real. The guy turned around. I didn't recognize him. He was younger than me, maybe 26, 27. Tattoos on his shoulders, messy hair. He looked confused. Not guilty, just confused. Like he didn't understand why I was there. That's when it hit me. He didn't know about me. Or maybe he did, and he just didn't care. I didn't say anything. I turned around, walked back to the living room, picked up my keys, and left. Claire called after me. I heard her scrambling out of bed, footsteps rushing down the hallway. But I was already out the door. I got in my car, drove, didn't know where I was going. Just away. I ended up at a park about 20 minutes from our place. Sat on a bench near a pond where families were feeding ducks. Kids laughing, couples holding hands. Everyone living their normal lives. And I just sat there, numb. My phone started buzzing. Claire. Over and over. Texts, calls, voicemails. I didn't open any of them. I turned my phone off. And I just sat. For hours. Until the sun started going down and the families went home, and the park was empty, except for me and the ducks. That's when I started thinking. Not about what I'd just seen, but about everything before it. The last 7 months. All the little things I'd ignored. Her phone face down on the table. The new passwords on her laptop. The way she started going to the gym more often. Coming home later. Smiling at her phone in ways that didn't include me. I'd noticed. Of course I'd noticed. But I told myself I was being paranoid. That I was insecure. That I needed to trust her. So I buried it. And she kept going. I drove to a motel that night. One of those roadside places with flickering neon signs and scratchy bedspreads. I paid cash. Didn't want her tracking my credit card. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall. Turned my phone back on. 63 messages. I scrolled through a few. Please let me explain. It's not what you think. I love you. Please come home. I didn't respond. I blocked her number. Blocked her on everything. Instagram, email, all of it. Then I called my brother. He lived 2 states away, but he answered on the second ring. I told him what happened. He didn't say much. I just listened. When I finished, there was a long pause. Then he said, "You can stay with me, as long as you need." I left the next morning. Drove 11 hours to his place in North Carolina. Didn't go back to the apartment. Didn't pack my things. He just left. Claire tried to reach me through mutual friends. Through my brother. Even through my mom. But I didn't respond. I deleted social media. Changed my number. Quit my job remotely and found contract work I could do from anywhere. I disappeared. Not out of fear. Not out of weakness. Boo. T because I needed space. A space to think. A space to feel. Space to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do next. People think revenge happens fast. Like you catch someone cheating and immediately plot some grand takedown. But that's not how it works. Not for me anyway. For the first 2 months, I didn't think about revenge at all. I thought about her. About us. About all the things I'd done wrong. Was I too distant, too boring? Did I stop trying? Did I miss something? I spiraled. Hard. Some nights I'd wake up at 3 in the morning, convinced it was my fault. That if I'd been better, more attentive, more exciting, maybe she wouldn't have needed someone else. My brother would find me sitting on his back porch in the dark, staring at nothing. He never pushed. Just sat with me. Brought me coffee. Let me work through it. Slowly, something started to shift. I stopped blaming myself. And I started getting angry. Not loud anger. Not the kind that makes you punch walls or scream into pillows. Quiet anger. The kind that sits in your stomach and doesn't leave. I started thinking about the guy. The one in my bed. In my apartment. With my girlfriend. I wondered how long he'd been there. How many times. If they laughed about me. If she told him things, private things are things. And I started thinking about Claire. About how easily she lied. How she looked me in the eye every morning and said she loved me. Kissed me goodbye. Came home and slept next to me like nothing was wrong. For 7 months. That takes skill. Cold, calculated skill. And that's when I realized something. She didn't just cheat on me. She erased me. Made me irrelevant in my own relationship. turned me into a placeholder, someone to pay half the rent and walk the dog while she lived a whole other life. And you know what? That clarity changed everything. I wasn't sad anymore. I was awake. I started paying attention to myself, to my patterns, to the kind of person I'd become in that relationship. I'd shrunk, not physically, but emotionally. I'd made myself smaller to make room for her. Gave up hobbies, friends, parts of myself I liked. I didn't even realize I was doing it. But sitting there, 2 months out, in my brother's guest room in a town where no one knew me, I saw it clearly, and I made a decision. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to show up at her door demanding answers. I was going to rebuild. Quietly, carefully, and when I was ready, she'd see exactly what she lost. Not because I told her, but because she'd feel it, in ways she didn't expect. I started small. Went to the gym, not to get ripped or impress anyone, just to feel strong again. I started running in the mornings, reading at night. I took a woodworking class at a local community center, made a bookshelf. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. I started saying yes to things. Dinner invites from my brother's friends, hiking trips, a pottery class that turned out to be mostly retired women, but they were kind and funny and didn't ask about my past. I was building a life, a small one, but it was mine. And for the first time in years, I felt like I was enough. Just me. No one else. 3 months in, I got a text from an unknown number. It was Claire. She'd got my new number somehow. The message was long, apologetic. She said she'd been in therapy, that she realized what she'd done, that she missed me, that the guy was gone, that she wanted to try again. I read it twice, then deleted it, blocked the number, and went back to building my bookshelf. Because here's the thing. Revenge isn't about making someone suffer. It's about making them irrelevant. And Claire, she was becoming a memory. A bad one, but just a memory. Still, there was a part of me that wasn't done. A part that wanted her to know. Not through words, but through proof. That I didn't need her. That I was better without her. That she didn't break me. She just freed me. And that realization, that was the beginning of everything. 4 months after I left, I started a blog. Nothing fancy. Just a simple site where I wrote about rebuilding. Not about Claire, not about betrayal. About starting over. Finding yourself after losing everything. Building something from nothing. I didn't use my real name. Didn't post photos of my face. It was anonymous. Just thoughts, reflections, lessons I was learning. I wrote about the bookshelf I made. About running my first 5K. About sitting in a pottery class with a 72-year-old woman named Dorothy who told me her husband left her 30 years ago and she didn't start living until he did. People started reading. Not many at first. Maybe 10 views a post. Then 50. Then hundreds. I didn't expect it. But something about the way I wrote, it resonated. People left comments, shared their own stories. told me I was helping them. And weirdly, that helped me. I kept writing. Once a week. Then twice. Then almost every day. It became a thing. My thing. Around the same time, I started doing contract work for a marketing firm out of Austin. Remote gig, good pay. They liked my work and kept giving me bigger projects. Eventually, they offered me a full-time position. Full benefits, stock options, the whole deal. I said yes. Moved to Austin 6 months after leaving Claire. Got a small apartment downtown. Nothing flashy, just clean, quiet mine. I bought furniture I actually liked. Hung art on the walls. Adopted a cat from a shelter, named him Carter. He was old, missing half an ear, grumpy as hell. Perfect. Life started feeling normal. Not in a boring way. In a stable way. I had routines. Morning runs, work, evening walks with Carter sitting in the window waiting for me. Weekends at coffee shops writing blog posts. Dinners with coworkers who became actual friends. I even started dating. Nothing serious. Just coffee here and there. Learning how to talk to people again without feeling like I had to hide parts of myself. It was good. Really good. And I didn't think about Claire much anymore. Except, sometimes late at night, I'd wonder, did she ever think about me? Did she regret it? Did she even care that I left? Or did she just move on, find someone new, and forget I existed? I hated that I still wondered. But I did. Then, about 8 months after I left, something happened. I got an email from a publisher. They'd found my blog, read through the archives, and they wanted to know if I'd be interested in turning it into a book. A real book. I stared at that email for 20 minutes. Read it over and over, convinced I was misunderstanding. But no, they were serious. They saw potential. Wanted to meet. Talk details. I said yes. We met over Zoom. 2 editors, both kind, both genuinely excited about the project. They said my writing had a rawness to it, an honesty people were craving. They thought it could reach a lot of people going through similar things. Divorce, breakups, loss. Starting over. We signed a deal 3 weeks later. Not a huge advance, but enough to make it feel real. I spent the next 4 months writing, expanding the blog posts, adding new chapters, going deeper into the emotional stuff I'd only hinted at online. It was hard, reliving everything, putting words to feelings I'd buried. But it was also freeing, like I was closing a chapter. Not with anger, with clarity. The book came out 10 months after I left Claire. It was called Asterisk, Starting at the Bottom of the Stairs, a memoir of rebuilding. The cover was simple, minimalist, a staircase leading up into light. It felt right. The publisher didn't expect much. Small print run, modest marketing. But something unexpected happened. People connected with it. Reviews started pouring in. 5 stars, 4 stars. People saying it helped them, that it made them feel less alone. Book clubs picked it up. Podcasts reached out for interviews. It started selling. Not bestseller numbers, but steady. Consistent. Enough that the publisher ordered a second print run. Then a third. I did a few interviews. Local podcasts, online magazines. I kept my face mostly out of it, used my pen name, stayed semi-anonymous. But my words were out there, and people were listening. That's when Claire found out. I didn't tell her, didn't send her a copy or leave breadcrumbs. But we had mutual friends, and one of them must have seen the book, recognized the story, and connected the dots. I know because I got a message from her best friend, Jenna. We'd been close once, before everything. The message was short. Claire read your book, she's devastated, thought you should know. I sat with that for a long time. Didn't respond. Just thought about it. Claire read my story. The one I wrote without her name in it. The one that wasn't about revenge or blame. Just survival. And she was devastated. Not because I attacked her, but because I moved on. Because I built something without her. Because the person she left behind wasn't broken. He was better. I didn't feel victorious. I felt quiet, like something had finally settled. A week later, Claire reached out directly. Another new number. Another long message. She said she was sorry. That reading the book made her realize how much she'd hurt me. How selfish she'd been. She said she was proud of me. That she was happy I'd found peace. And then she asked if we could talk. Just once. For closure. I read the message 3 times. Thought about it for 2 days. And then I responded. I don't think that's a good idea. I hope you're doing well. Take care. Short, polite, final. I didn't block her that time. Just let it sit. She didn't respond. And I didn't expect her to. But here's the thing. That moment, it wasn't the revenge I thought I wanted. I thought I wanted her to suffer. To regret. To feel the weight of what she'd done. And maybe she did. But what I actually felt was nothing. Not hatred. Not satisfaction. Just distance. She was a part of my past. A chapter that was over. And I had new chapters now. Better ones. The book kept doing well. I got invitations to speak at events. Small ones, libraries, community centers. People wanted to hear about starting over. About rebuilding after loss. I said yes to a few. Stood in front of rooms of 20, 30 people. Told my story. Not all of it. Just the parts that mattered. The lessons, the growth. People came up to me afterward. Shook my hand. Thanked me. Told me their stories. And every time, I felt a little more whole. A little more certain that leaving was the right choice. That disappearing wasn't weakness. It was the smartest thing I'd ever done. I started working on a second book. Not a memoir this time. A guide. Practical steps for people going through breakups, divorce, loss. How to rebuild your routines. Your identity. Your sense of self. It felt good. Purposeful. Like I was turning pain into something useful. Around that time, I met someone. Her name was Ava. We met at a bookstore. One of those independent places with creaky floors and the smell of old paper. She was browsing the self-help section. Picked up my book. I was standing 2 feet away, pretending to look at fiction. She didn't recognize me. I didn't say anything. Just watched her flip through the pages, read the back cover, then tuck it under her arm and keep browsing. I don't know why, but I followed her. Not creepy, just curious. She ended up in the poetry section, pulled out a Mary Oliver collection, sat down right there on the floor and started reading. I liked that. The unself-consciousness of it. I walked over, said, "That's a good one." And she looked up, smiled, said, "You've read it." I nodded. We talked for 20 minutes. About poetry, books, Austin. She was new to the city, graphic designer, freelance. She'd moved for a fresh start after ending a long relationship. I didn't tell her about Claire. Didn't mention the book. Just talked. Like a normal person. When we left, I asked if she wanted to grab coffee sometime. She said yes. Wrote her number on the corner of a bookmark and handed it to me. I texted her that night. We met for coffee 3 days later. Then dinner the next week. Then a walk along the river. It was easy. No games, no walls. Just two people getting to know each other. I told her about the book on our 4th date. She'd already bought it. Already read it. She looked at me with this soft, knowing smile and said, "I thought that might be you." I asked why she didn't say anything. And she shrugged. "I wanted to know you first, not your story." I liked her even more after that. We took it slow. No rushing. No pressure. Just being. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Not running from something. Just moving toward something better. But even with all of that, even with the book, the new life, the new person, there was still a part of me that wasn't finished. Not with Claire. With myself. I needed to know that I'd really let go. That I wasn't just distracting myself. That I'd actually healed. And there was only one way to find out. 14 months after I left, I went back. Not to the apartment. Not to see Claire. Just back to the city. I had a speaking event. A small literary festival about an hour from where Claire and I used to live. The organizers invited me to talk about the book. I almost said no. But something told me I needed to go. To see if being near that place again would stir anything up. If it would hurt. Or if I really had moved on. I flew in on a Thursday. The event was Saturday. I had 2 days to kill. I stayed at a hotel near the venue. Spent Friday walking around the city. It felt strange. Familiar but distant. Like visiting a place you used to live in a dream. I passed our old coffee shop. The park where I proposed. The street corner where we'd always argue about which direction to walk. And I felt nothing. Not nostalgia. Not pain. Just memory. Faded, distant. I sat on a bench near the park and watched people. Couples, families, strangers. Everyone living their lives. And I realized something. I didn't belong here anymore. Not because I couldn't, but because I didn't want to. This city, this life, it was part of my past. And I'd built something new. Something better. That night, I got dinner alone at a small Italian place I used to love. Sat at the bar. Ordered pasta. sipped wine, and just existed. No pressure, no expectation. Halfway through my meal, someone sat down next to me. I didn't look up at first, just kept eating. Then I heard a voice. Familiar. Soft. I thought that was you. I turned. It was Claire. She looked different. Thinner, hair shorter. Tired around the eyes. But still her. My stomach dropped. Not out of longing. Out of surprise. I hadn't expected this. Hadn't prepared for it. She smiled. Nervous. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ambush you. I just saw you through the window and I couldn't not say something. I put my fork down. Took a breath. Hey, Claire. She asked if she could sit. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no. She took that as permission. Ordered a drink. We sat there in silence for a moment. Then she spoke. I read your book. I nodded. I heard. It was beautiful, honest, hard to read, but beautiful. I didn't respond. She looked at me. Really looked at me. You seem good, happy. I shrugged. I'm doing okay. Better than okay, I think. Another silence. Then she said, I'm sorry for everything. I know I said it before, but I don't think I really meant it. Not the way I should have. I was selfish, cowardly, and I hurt you in ways I didn't even understand until I read what you wrote. I looked at her, and for the first time, I saw her clearly. Not as the villain. Not as the person who ruined my life. Just as someone who made a choice. A bad one. And had to live with it. I appreciate that, I said. She nodded. Wiped her eyes. Are you seeing anyone? I hesitated. Then nodded. Yeah. She smiled. Sad but genuine. Good, you deserve that. We sat there a little longer. Talked about small things. Her job, my book, the city. It wasn't warm. But it wasn't hostile either. Just two people who used to know each other. When she left, she hugged me. I didn't pull away. But I didn't hold on either. She whispered, I really am proud of you. And then she was gone. I sat there for a while after. Finished my wine. Paid the bill. Walked back to the hotel. And I felt lighter. Not because she apologized. Not because she acknowledged what she'd done. But because I realized something. I didn't need her to suffer. I didn't need her to regret. I didn't even need her to understand. I just needed to be free of it. And I was. The speaking event went well. 50 people showed up. I talked about the book. About rebuilding. About how the hardest part isn't the loss. It's believing you're worth rebuilding for. People clapped. I asked questions. Bought copies. One woman, older, maybe 60, came up to me afterward. She said, my husband left me 3 years ago. I've been stuck ever since, but listening to you, I think I'm ready to start moving. I didn't know what to say. So I just said, you are, I promise. She smiled, thanked me, and walked away. And that moment, that was the revenge I didn't know I needed. Not against Claire. Against the version of myself that thought I wasn't enough. That thought I needed her to be whole. I flew back to Austin the next day. Ava picked me up from the airport, smiled when she saw me. I asked how it went. I told her. All of it. Even the part about Claire. As she listened, didn't get jealous, didn't get weird. I just listened. When I finished, she said, "How do you feel?" I thought about it. Free. She kissed me. We went home. And I didn't think about Claire again for a long time. Life kept moving. The second book came out. Did even better than the first. I got invited to speak at bigger events. Universities, conferences. I said yes to some, no to others. Kept writing. Kept building. Ava and I moved in together after a year. Got a place with big windows and a small yard. Adopted a dog, named him Charlie. Carter tolerated him. We had dinners with friends. Quiet weekends. Long talks about nothing. It was simple. And I loved it. 2 years after leaving Claire, I got a message from Jenna, Claire's best friend, the one who told me Claire read the book. She said Claire was getting married. To someone new. Someone she met at work. She was happy. Really happy. Jenna said she thought I'd want to know. I read the message. Didn't feel anything. Just thought good for her. And I meant it. Not in a bitter way. In a genuine way. She deserved to be happy. So did I. And we both were. Just not together. I didn't respond to Jenna. Just archived the message. Went back to my life. Sometimes people ask me if I regret how I handled it. If I wish I'd confronted her. Screamed, demanded answers. And honestly, no. Because the version of revenge I got, it wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. Personal. I didn't destroy her. I just became someone she couldn't touch. Someone she'd never reach again. And that was enough. 3 years after I left Claire, my first book hit a bestseller list. Not the New York Times, but a regional one, then a national indie list. It was unexpected. As slow. W burn that suddenly caught fire. Podcasts wanted me, interviews, book clubs. I said yes to more than I probably should have. But it felt important. Like I was giving people permission to leave things that hurt them. To rebuild without guilt. The second book did well too. Sold steadily. Got adopted by a few therapists who recommended it to clients. That felt good. Like the pain I went through wasn't wasted. It helped people. And that mattered. Ava and I got engaged that summer. I proposed on a quiet Sunday morning in our kitchen. No big plan, no grand gesture. Just coffee and sunlight and the two of us. I asked. She cried. I said yes. We got married 6 months later. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. We honeymooned in Portugal. Walked cobblestone streets. Drank wine on balconies overlooking the ocean. Talked about the future. Kids maybe, or maybe not. A bigger place, or staying where we were. We didn't decide anything. Just enjoyed the possibility. When we got back, I started working on a third book. This one wasn't about me. It was about other people's stories. I interviewed dozens of people who'd rebuilt after loss. Divorce, death, betrayal, illness. People who'd hit bottom and clawed their way back up. I wrote their stories with care, with respect, gave them space to be messy and human and real. The book took 2 years to finish, but when it came out, it resonated deeply. People saw themselves in those stories, felt less alone, and that felt like the whole point. Around that time, I got a call from a producer. She'd read all 3 books, wanted to option the first one for a limited series. I laughed, thought she was joking. As she wasn't. We met, talked details. She said she wanted to stay true to the emotional core. Keep it grounded, real, not dramatize it. I liked her, trusted her vision. We signed a deal. I didn't expect much to come of it. But a year later, they started filming. Hired a writer I respected, a director who'd done beautiful, quiet character work. They sent me scripts. I asked for input. I gave notes, tried not to be precious about it. It was my story, but it wasn't anymore. It belonged to other people now. And that was okay. The series came out 2 years after we signed the deal. 6 episodes. Slow, introspective. Beautifully shot. It didn't blow up. Didn't become a cultural phenomenon. But it found its audience. People who needed it. And that was enough. I did a few press junkets, podcasts, a couple TV spots. People asked if Claire had seen it. I said I didn't know. And I didn't. Didn't care either. That chapter was closed. For real this time. Ava and I had our first kid that same year. A daughter. We named her Iris. She was small and loud and perfect. Sleepless nights, endless diapers. The whole chaotic, beautiful mess of it. I'd never been happier. One night, when Iris was about 3 months old, I was up at 2 in the morning, rocking her back to sleep. And I thought about who I was before. The guy who found his girlfriend in bed with someone else, who drove to a motel and sat on a scratchy bedspread and didn't know what to do next. And I barely recognized him. Not because I'd buried him, but because I'd outgrown him. I wasn't that person anymore. I was someone else. Someone better. Not because I tried to be, but because I chose to be. Every single day. That was the real revenge. Not against Claire. Against the version of myself that thought I wasn't enough. The one that thought I needed someone else to validate my worth. I'd proven him wrong. Quietly. Consistently. And that was everything. 4 years after leaving Claire, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. I almost threw it away. But something made me open it. It was from Claire. She'd written to say congratulations. On the series, the book, the baby. She said she was happy for me. That she'd grown a lot since we ended. That therapy helped. That she understood now why I left the way I did. She said she didn't expect a response. Didn't need one. Just wanted me to know she was genuinely glad I found peace. I read it twice. Folded it back up. Put it in a drawer. And never thought about it again. Not out of bitterness. Out of closure. Real closure. The kind that doesn't need words or validation. Just acceptance. That things happened. That people change. That life moves on. And we're all just doing the best we can. I kept writing, kept speaking, kept showing up for the people who needed to hear that starting over was possible. Ava and I had another kid, a son this time. We named him Bennett. Life got louder, messier. And so I stopped counting the years, stopped measuring my life by what happened with Claire, started measuring it by what I built after. And that made all the difference. 5 years after I left Claire, I stopped thinking about her entirely. Not out of effort. It just happened. She became a fact of my past. Like a job I used to have or a city I used to live in. Part of the timeline, but not part of the present. I was in my late 30s now. 2 kids, a wife I adored. A career I was proud of. A home that felt like mine. I wasn't the same person who walked out of that apartment. Not even close. And I didn't want to be. That version of me was smaller, quieter, more willing to shrink to make space for someone else. This version, he took up space, unapologetically, not in an arrogant way, just confidently. I knew who I was now, what I wanted, what I didn't, and I didn't compromise on that anymore. The books kept doing well. I published a 4th one, then a 5th, each one different, each one honest. Some sold better than others, but they all meant something. To me, to readers. And that was enough. I got invited to teach a workshop at a university on memoir writing. How to tell your story without exploiting your pain. How to be vulnerable without performing. I said yes. Taught for a semester. I loved it. The students were hungry, eager to share their stories. Some of them had been through hell. Abuse, addiction, loss. And they were trying to make sense of it. I helped where I could. Gave feedback, encouragement. Reminded them that their stories mattered. That pain doesn't have to be wasted. It can be transformed. One student, a woman in her early 20s, came to my office hours. She'd written about her parents' divorce, how it shattered her sense of stability, how she didn't know who to trust anymore. She asked me how I moved on, how I stopped being angry. I thought about it. Then I said, I didn't stop being angry. I just stopped letting it run my life. I let it fuel me instead of consume me. She nodded, wrote that down, said thank you, and left. I sat there for a while after, thinking about how far I'd come, not just in rebuilding, but in understanding what that even meant. Rebuilding isn't about going back to who you were. It's about becoming someone new, someone better, someone who learned from the break. That semester, I also started volunteering at a community center that helped people transitioning out of difficult situations. Divorce, homelessness, domestic violence. I ran a writing group. Once a week, we'd sit in a circle and write. No rules, no judgment, just expression. Some people wrote poetry. Some wrote letters they'd never send. Some just scribbled feelings onto paper. It didn't matter. What mattered was the release. The permission to feel. One man, probably in his 50s, wrote about losing his wife. Not to death, to dementia. She was still alive, but she didn't know him anymore. He'd visit her every day, and every day she'd look at him like a stranger. He said writing helped him grieve someone who was still breathing. I didn't have words for that. Just sat with him, let him cry. That's the thing about pain. Sometimes you can't fix it. You can only witness it. And sometimes that's enough. Ava and I celebrated our 5th anniversary that year. We went back to Portugal, left the kids with her parents, spent a week just being us again. No diapers, no deadlines. Just wine and cobblestones and long conversations. One night, sitting on a balcony overlooking the ocean, she asked me if I ever thought about Claire. I was honest. Not really. Sometimes I remember things, but it doesn't hurt anymore. It's just history. She nodded. Good, you deserve that. I looked at her. I don't think I could have gotten here without you. She smiled. You would have. You're stronger than you think. Maybe. But I was grateful I didn't have to find out. When we got back, I started working on a new project. Not a book this time. A podcast. Long-form interviews with people who'd rebuilt after major life disruptions. I wanted to hear their voices. Their pauses, their laughter. The way they spoke about pain and hope and everything in between. I called it After the Fall. We launched with 8 episodes. I interviewed a widower, a woman who left a cult, a man who lost everything in a fire, a teenager who survived a school shooting. Each story was different, but the thread was the same. A life breaks you, and then you decide what to do with the pieces. The podcast found an audience. Not huge, but loyal. People wrote in, shared their own stories, asked to be interviewed. I said yes when I could. We recorded in my home studio. Just me and a guest and a couple microphones. No script, no agenda. Just conversation. Real, messy, human. It became one of my favorite things I'd ever done. Because it wasn't about me anymore. It was about them. Their resilience. Their courage. Their refusal to stay broken. 6 years after leaving Claire, I ran into someone from our old circle. A guy named Marcus. We'd been friendly, not close but friendly. He recognized me at a coffee shop. Came over, said hi. We talked for a few minutes. He caught up. He mentioned Claire. Said she was doing well. Still married, had a kid now. Living in a different state. He said she spoke highly of me. That she'd grown a lot. I nodded. Said I was glad to hear it. And I meant it. No bitterness, no resentment. Just genuine goodwill. He asked if I'd ever consider reaching out. I shook my head. I don't think that's necessary. We're both in different places now, and that's okay. He understood. We finished our coffee. Said goodbye. And I went home. That night, Ava asked what I was thinking about. I told her about running into Marcus. About what he said. She asked how I felt. I thought about it. Neutral, like hearing about an old coworker, someone I knew once, but not anymore. She kissed my forehead. That's healthy. It was. And I was proud of that. 7 years after I left, I wrote an essay for a literary magazine. It was about revenge. Not the loud kind. Not the dramatic TV movie kind. But the quiet kind. The kind where you rebuild so thoroughly that the person who hurt you becomes irrelevant. I wrote about how people think revenge is about making someone pay. But real revenge, it's about refusing to let them define you. It's about becoming so whole, so complete, that their absence doesn't leave a hole. It's about building a life so full that they can't touch it, even if they wanted to. The essay went viral. Well, viral for literary essays. Thousands of shares, hundreds of comments. People saying it helped them, that it gave them permission to move on without needing closure from the person who hurt them. I read the comments, felt grateful, and then I closed my laptop and went to play with my kids, because that was my life now. Not revenge, not proving anything to anyone, just living, fully presently, with the people who loved me and who I loved back. That was the real victory. Not against Claire, against the belief that I needed her to be happy. I didn't. I never did. I just needed to believe in myself. And once I did, everything else fell into place. 8 years after I left Claire, I got a call from my publisher. They wanted to do a 10th anniversary edition of my first book. New cover, updated foreword, maybe some additional reflections. I agreed, sat down to write the new foreword, and I found myself struggling. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I had too much. I started writing, deleted it, started again. I must have drafted that foreword 20 times. Finally, I settled on something simple. I wrote about how the book wasn't really about revenge. It never was. It was about survival, about finding yourself after losing everything you thought defined you, about realizing that the person you were before the break, that person was just a draft, and the real you, the one who emerges after, that's the final version, the one that matters. I sent it to my publisher, and she loved it, said it captured exactly what the book meant to people. The anniversary edition came out 6 months later. Sold well. Got reviewed again. People who'd read it years ago picked it up and said it hit different now, that they understood it better. I got messages from readers, thanking me, telling me their stories, how they left jobs, relationships, cities, how they rebuilt, how they were happier now. That never got old. Knowing that my mess helped someone else clean up theirs. That same year, I was invited to give a TED Talk. I almost said no. I'd never been great with big stages. Preferred smaller, more intimate settings. But Ava convinced me. Said it was an opportunity to reach people who needed it. So I said yes. The theme was starting over. I talked for 18 minutes. About leaving. About rebuilding. About the difference between running away and walking towards something better. I didn't mention Claire by name. Didn't need to. The story was bigger than her. It was about anyone who'd ever felt stuck, trapped by who they used to be, afraid to become who they could be. The talk ended. People clapped. I walked off stage, and I felt calm, like I'd said everything I needed to say. The TED Talk went online a few months later, got millions of views. Comments poured in, people saying it changed their perspective, that it gave them courage. I didn't read all of them, just skimmed enough to feel the impact. And then I moved on. Because that's the thing about sharing your story. At some point, it stops being yours. It becomes a mirror. People see what they need to see. And that's okay. Around that time, I started thinking about slowing down. Not stopping, just being more selective. I'd been going hard for almost a decade. Books, podcasts, talks, workshops. Always. Creating, always sharing. And it had been good. Really good. But I was tired. Not burned out. Just ready for a different pace. Lava and I talked about it. She supported whatever I wanted to do. Said I'd earned the right to say no more often. So I did. I turned down interview requests, speaking gigs, opportunities that would have excited me 5 years ago. Not because they weren't good, but because they weren't necessary. I had nothing left to prove. Not to anyone. Not even to myself. I started spending more time at home. With the kids. With Ava. We took weekends off. Went camping, hiked, explored. No phones, no emails. Just us. It was the best thing I'd done in years. 9 years after I left Claire, Iris asked me a question. She was 7 by then. Smart, curious. Always asking why. We were sitting in the backyard. She was drawing, I was reading. Out of nowhere, she said, "Dad, were you always happy?" I put my book down. What do you mean? Like, did something bad ever happen to you? I thought about how to answer. Didn't want to lie, but didn't want to burden her either. Yeah, I said, something bad happened once, a long time ago. What happened? Someone I loved hurt me, and I had to decide what to do about it. What did you do? I left, and I started over. She thought about that. Were you scared? Yeah, really scared. But you did it anyway. Yeah. That's brave. I smiled. Thank you. She went back to drawing. And I sat there, grateful that she'd never have to understand that kind of pain. At least not yet. 10 years after I left Claire, I wrote my last book. Not my last ever. Just the last one about that chapter of my life. I called it The Long Rebuild, a decade after the fall. It was part memoir, part reflection. Looking back on everything I'd learned. Everything I'd become. I wrote about the early days. The motel, the numbness, the anger. I wrote about the middle. The blog, the first book, the slow realization that I was going to be okay. And I wrote about the end. Or not the end. The arrival. The place I'd been walking toward without knowing it. A life full of love, purpose, peace. The book came out on the 10th anniversary of the day I left. I didn't plan that. Just worked out that way. It felt right. Like closing a loop. The reviews were kind. People said it was my best work. That it had wisdom the earlier books didn't. I agreed. Not because I was a better writer, but because I was a better person. more patient, more forgiving. Of myself, of others, even of Claire. I dedicated the book to Ava and the kids for showing me what comes after the fall. She cried when she read it, said she was proud of me. I told her I couldn't have done any of it without her. She said that wasn't true, but she was glad she got to be part of it. That year, on the actual anniversary, I did something I hadn't done in a decade. I drove back to the city, to the apartment. I didn't go inside, just parked across the street. Sat there, looked at the building. It looked the same. Same brick, same windows. Same front door I walked out of 10 years ago. I thought about who I was then. Broken, lost, confused. And who I was now. Whole, found, clear. I didn't feel angry. Didn't feel sad. Just grateful that it happened. Because if it hadn't, I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't have written the books. Met Ava. Had the kids. Built this life. All of it came from that moment. That choice to leave. To rebuild. To refuse to stay broken. I sat there for maybe 20 minutes. Then I started the car. And I drove away. For the last time. I didn't look back. Didn't need to. That chapter was over. And I was okay with that. More than okay. I was free. 11 years after I left Claire, I stopped counting. The anniversary came and went. I didn't mark it. Didn't think about it. It was just another day. And that told me everything. I wasn't defined by what happened anymore. I was defined by what I built after. And that was a life I was proud of. Sava and I were good. Really good. Not perfect, no relationship is. But good. We fought sometimes. About small things, stupid things. Who forgot to pick up milk, whose turn it was to do bedtime. Normal couple stuff. But we always came back to each other. Always talked it out. Because we both knew what it was like to lose something. And we weren't willing to take this for granted. The kids were growing. Iris was almost 9. Bennett was 6. They had their own personalities now. Their own interests. Iris loved reading, writing stories. She'd come to me with notebooks full of ideas. Ask me questions about plot and character. I'd sit with her, help her think through it. Never told her what to write. Just helped her find her own voice. Bennett was different. Quieter, more introspective. He liked building things. Legos. Blocks, anything he could stack. He'd spend hours in his own world. Creating. I saw parts of myself in both of them. The parts I liked. The curious parts, the resilient parts. The parts that didn't give up. I'd stopped doing as many public events. Still wrote, still did the podcast occasionally. But mostly, I focused on smaller things. Teaching workshops. Mentoring writers. Helping people one-on-one. It felt more meaningful. Less performative. One afternoon, I got an email. From a name I didn't recognize. The subject line said, "Thank you." I almost deleted it. Gets lots of emails like that. But something made me open it. It was from a woman named Sarah. She said she'd read my first book 7 years ago. Right after her husband left her for someone else. She said she was broken, didn't know how to move forward, didn't think she could. But the book helped, gave her a roadmap. She rebuilt, went back to school, started a new career, met someone new, got remarried. And now, 7 years later, she just wanted to say thank you. Because without that book, she didn't think she would have made it. I read the email 3 times, and I cried. Not sad tears, grateful ones. Because that's what it was all about. Not the sales, not the recognition. The impact. Knowing that the worst thing that ever happened to me helped someone else survive the worst thing that happened to them. I wrote her back, told her I was proud of her, that her strength was her own. The book just reminded her it was there. She replied, said that meant a lot. And that was it. A small moment. But it mattered. That same year, my mom got sick. Cancer. Aggressive. We didn't know how long she had. I flew out to be with her. Spent 2 weeks by her side. We talked about everything. She told me she was proud of me. Not just for the books, for how I handled everything with Claire. She said a lot of people would have stayed angry, would have let it poison them. But I didn't. I chose differently, and that took strength. I told her I learned that from her, from watching her navigate her own losses, her own heartbreaks. She smiled, said we all just do the best we can. She passed 2 months later, surrounded by family. Peaceful. I spoke at her funeral, told stories, made people laugh, made them cry, reminded them that she lived fully, loved deeply, and taught us to do the same. After the funeral, I took a walk, alone, through the neighborhood where I grew up, past the park, the school, the corner store. Everything looked smaller than I remembered, but still familiar. I thought about all the versions of myself that had walked these streets. The kid, the teenager, the young adult, the man who got cheated on and didn't know what to do, the man who rebuilt, and the man I was now. Older, wiser, softer. They were all still in me. Layered. Each one a part of the story. I didn't regret any of it. Not even the hard parts. Because they all led here. To this moment. This life. 12 years after leaving Claire, I ran into her. Not on purpose. Just chance. I was at a conference. Keynote speaker for a mental health summit. I just finished my talk. Was grabbing coffee in the lobby. And there she was. Standing 20 feet away. Talking to someone. Laughing. She looked older. We all did. But good. Healthy. Happy. For a second, I thought about walking over. Saying hi. But then I stopped. Because I realized I didn't need to. There was nothing left to say. No closure needed. No conversation required. We were strangers now, who happened to share a past. And that was okay. I turned, walked the other way, and I felt nothing. Not relief, not sadness. Just neutrality. She was a person. I was a person. We'd intersected once. And now we didn't. That was the end of it. Later that night, I called Ava, told her what happened. She asked how I felt. I said, like it was a lifetime ago. She said, because it was. And she was right. That version of me, the one who loved Claire, he was gone. Not erased. Just evolved into someone better. Someone who knew his worth. Who didn't need validation from anyone else. Who built a life he was proud of. That was the real revenge. Not making her suffer. Not proving anything to her. Just becoming someone she'd never recognize. Someone she couldn't hurt. Because I didn't belong to her anymore. I belonged to myself. And to the people who loved me for who I actually was. Not who I pretended to be. 13 years later, I was sitting in my office, working on a new project. Not a book. A course. For people going through major transitions. Divorce, loss, career changes. I wanted to create something practical. Something people could work through at their own pace. Ava walked in, handed me coffee, kissed the top of my head. You good? I nodded. Yeah, really good. She smiled. Led. Good. And she left. I sat there, coffee in hand, looking out the window, watching the sun set, and I thought about everything. The apartment, the cheating, the leaving, the motel, the blog, the book, the rebuilding, the love, the life, all of it. And I realized I wouldn't change a thing. Not because it didn't hurt. It did. Deeply. But because it made me who I am. And I liked who I was. I was kind, patient, present. I loved deeply. Showed up for people. Helped where I could. I wasn't perfect. But I was whole. And that was everything. People ask me sometimes if I ever forgave Claire. I tell them the truth. I don't think about her enough to forgive her. She's not a wound anymore. Just a scar. Faded. Barely visible. A reminder of something I survived. And moved past. Forgiveness isn't always a big moment. Sometimes it's just indifference. And that's okay. 14 years later, Iris asked me about love. She was 13. Starting to notice boys. Starting to feel things. She asked if love was worth it. If it was worth the risk. I thought about it. Then I said, yeah, it is. Even if it hurts. Especially if it hurts, because the hurt means it mattered, and if it matters, it's worth it. But what if someone breaks your heart? Then you rebuild, and you find someone who doesn't. She nodded. Like you and Mom. Yes, like me and Mom. She smiled. Went back to her room. And I sat there, grateful that I could tell her that I believed it, that I lived it. Because I did. I found love after heartbreak, built a life after loss, became someone better after being broken. And that was the whole point. 15 years after I left Claire, I wrote one last essay. For myself. Not for publication. Just for me. I wrote about revenge. Real revenge. Not the kind that destroys. The kind that rebuilds. I wrote about how the best way to hurt someone who hurt you is to stop letting them matter. To build something so beautiful, so full, so whole, that they become a footnote, a moment in your history, not the defining chapter. I wrote about how I used to think revenge was about making Claire regret what she did, making her see what she lost. But that's not what happened. She probably did regret it, probably did see. But by the time she did, I didn't care, because I'd moved on. Not just physically, emotionally, spiritually. I'd become someone new, someone she'd never know. And that was the ultimate revenge. Not because I planned it, but because I lived it. I finished the essay, read it once, then deleted it, because I didn't need it anymore. I didn't need to prove anything. Not to her, not to myself. I already knew. I won, not by destroying her, but by building me. And that was enough. 15 years later, I'm 46 now. Married, 2 kids, a career I love, a life I'm proud of. I don't think about Claire anymore. Not with anger, not with sadness, not with anything. She's a name, a memory, a part of my past that doesn't touch my present. And that's exactly how it should be. People sometimes ask me if I have regrets about how I handled it, about leaving the way I did. And I tell them no, because leaving was the best thing I ever did. Not for revenge, for survival, for growth, for becoming who I was always meant to be. The person who didn't need anyone else to feel whole, who built a life from the ground up, who turned pain into purpose. That's not revenge. That's freedom. And that's worth everything. I'm sitting in my backyard right now, watching the sun set. Ava's inside making dinner. The kids are doing homework. The dog's asleep at my feet. And I'm happy, deeply, quietly, completely. Not because everything's perfect. It's not. Life is messy, complicated. But it's mine. And I built it. Piece by piece. Day by day. From nothing. And that's the real story. Not what she did to me, but what I did after. That's the story I'm proud of. That's the story I'll keep living. Because revenge isn't about making someone pay. It's about refusing to stay broken. It's about building something they can't touch, something they'll never be part of. And when you do that, when you really do that, you don't need them to know. You don't need them to see. You just need to live. Fully. Freely. Without them. And that's the sweetest revenge of all.